who is an expert in the field of Windrush claims and to help us really get our claims moving, you know, as a people, because man, this whole Windrush scandal thing, we really need to get up on the game of it, man, and really need to start pushing forward our community to really start getting their claims, you know? Everybody, please mute yourself. I'll do it anyway. And this is our good sister, our guest that we got in today as we speak. We're not going to tarry. The the Queen's name is Glenda Caesar. Yeah. And she is a campaigner, an activist for the Windrush scandal. And she was born in the Caribbean island of Dominica. Big up all the Dominican people in the chat right now. And came to the UK aged 3 months with her mother and aunt in 1961 to meet her father, whom had traveled earlier to seek work to acquire accommodation for his wife and family. She had worked in the NHS administration for over 20 years when her career was abruptly ended by the Windrush scandal, November 2009. So, oops, what are you doing? What are you doing? Yeah, her immigration problems first started in 1998. Glenda was unable to obtain a British passport when her mother fell sick whilst on holiday. Let me get more people in the room, more people coming in the room. Welcome, welcome, welcome with our guest today, Glenda Caesar. So happy that everyone's in the space. 2009, she took part in the position as a GP practice administrator and was faced restrictions and questions regarding her legal right to work and live in the UK. Please mute yourself, everybody. Thank you. Mute yourselves. We don't want to, you know, Rice Krispies munching in the background, but shout out to Rice Krispie fans. Yeah, so where was we now? Legal right to work in the UK, and she was put under immense pressure from a new manager who was not happy that she did not have a UK passport and decided to terminate on the grounds of gross misconduct of not having legal rights to work and live in the country. Does this sound familiar, people? Because this is many of our cases, many of our fathers and mothers' cases, many of our grandparents' cases. She became a victim of the British government's hostile environment, unable to work or claim benefits for the following 10 years. She was forced to rely on her children for support. Her eldest child, born deaf, shared her benefits with her. Right, just bringing more people. This also had a knock-on effect on her youngest child, born in 1988. He was refused his rights as a British citizen and fell into a bout of depression. Her story came to light in 2018. Amelia Gentleman had broken the news in The Guardian. The Guardian newspaper, by the way, they're getting compensation for slave. Well, they reported about the former plantation owners getting payment compensation for being slave owners or landowners. Can you imagine? She's a director of the Windrush National Organization and a prominent member of the Windrush community doing advocacy work and speaks regularly, both in the media and at community events, welcoming people. She has been successfully assisting claimants with the challenge, the scheme for close family members. So many people coming in the space. I love it. Hold on, just bringing in more people. Everybody, just mute yourself. Mute yourself. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Right. She is a director in the National Organization, a prominent member of the Windrush community doing advocacy work and speaks regularly at both media and community events, and she has successfully in assisting claimants with competing compensation forms, regulating their status and reviews. She was able to challenge the scheme for close family members and played a part in a change in policy of living costs, which ensured that family members who assisted primary claimants were able to be financially reimbursed for the scheme. You know what? I'm going to just stop right there because you know what? It's just best to crack on. There's a lot to read there, but we have the sister right here. So rather than read, we have the actual queen here live and in living color. So please help me to please introduce Glenda Caesar. Mute everybody mute. Everybody mute yourself now. Mute yourself. All right. So everyone, please put a 1 in the chat and let's welcome Glenda Caesar. I'm not going to tarry anymore. You want to hear from Glenda? Glenda's going to show us how you can get Windrush compensation claims, and we will open up for question and answers as soon as Sister finishes her presentation, or she can conduct and entertain question and answers whenever she feels during the course of her presentation. Sister, the floor is all yours.
Oh, thank you so much, Courtney, and I hope everyone can listen. And thank you so much. I'm just watching people pile into the room, and I'm grateful for this. And this isn't only for me, but it's also for the community who's been affected by this whole scandal, which we hate the using the label Windrush, as the Windrush ship that came over here with good intentions for the people to come and help Britain get back their greatness again. And it was people of the Caribbean community and other communities, but it mostly people of dark color. Let's put it that way. And oh, sorry, I can hear myself being repeated somewhere. Oh, I see where. I see where. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. I think everyone's just heard my story and read my story. Or it's been in the public domain for the past maybe going on 7 years, and I've always been very open in anything in regards to this. Oh, I can see my colleague June Elizabeth has come on as well, so I may invite her to have a say as well. We work very closely together, challenging the Home Office on all the difficulties that we find that the people who put in a claim are facing. We are this whole scheme thing is difficult. It's really difficult for those of you, for those who haven't got access to a laptop, a computer. It's hard to get even to go onto the website and complete it, which you can do to complete the form, but it's
Sorry, sis, unmute yourself, beloved. I muted you
I've
by
just done
accident.
that.
Sorry.
I've
I
just done
turned
that.
it. Sorry. Everybody mute, please. Mute, mute, mute. Sorry, Sister Glenn.
Yeah, it's not a matter of just completing a form. It's a matter of having putting in the information so that you can ensure that you have generated the interest and you are not faced with the nil awards. Now, I'm not saying that everybody who puts in a claim is going to get awards. It's depending on their criteria, which they have put in place and which we have to follow. But yet again, myself and my colleagues, we do challenge it if we find it is a bit difficult for the people who are putting in claims. They need a lot of ID, need a lot of paperwork. They need a lot of reassuring. They're changing the goalposts on us on a regular basis, what we're finding anyway. So they put, these are ordinary civil servants, and I have to say that because what we found is that this whole scheme, this whole scandal um, is trauma. It is a lot of trauma. And if you haven't got the experience in trauma, then you will never understand trauma. We all go through it. And something like this, when we put in the claims, when people are putting in their claims and they're having to repeat the story, it's a reoccurring trauma. I mean, Courtney just read out a piece in my bio about me having to rely on my daughter and my son having to go through about depression. And straight away, that chokes me up because knowing that I had to go through that, it shouldn't have been fair. But also, what I didn't put in my bio is I even contemplated suicide at a time because I didn't see a way out. And a lot of people who are to share. Oh, I don't know what to do with that, Courtney. Can you see that on the screen?
What's that on the screen, beloved? Sorry.
Pressing you to allow multiple presenters to share. Oh, do I press OK?
Um,
They can share
no,
it.
no, 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 no. You're the only one that. Oh, okay. So if you want to share, right?
Well, this person wants to share it to multiple presenters. So shall I just press that if they're on? I suppose if they're on, oh, I'll just do it and see what happens. As long as no
Yeah.
one does.
Who is it?
Glenda, sorry, I hit that by accident. Can you just
Yeah,
ignore
yeah,
that?
Okay, you bet. I
yeah,
saw that.
yeah,
All right.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I I'm open for questions because I don't want to make this about me because I'm sure there's people out there who have got a lot of questions. But before we go into your sharing your story, or if if I'm allowed to, can I make, if my colleague has got something that she would like to share, because we work very closely, just to let you know, we have bi-monthly meetings with the senior managers of the scheme, and I mean the top bosses, and we do challenge them because we come across caseworkers, people who submitted their application via their status or by applying for compensation. And what we find is that the caseworkers are coming back, but not following the policies, what they have put in place for this scheme. So, June, I don't know if there's anything you'd like to say. Would you like to share anything?
Yeah, good morning, my dear Glenda. Zooming in from Kingston, Jamaica. That was Herman. He sent me the link. So thank you, Herman. I'll let you present. And if I need to come in, if you want to call me in, you know how we work together.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. All right, thank you.
Okay, then. One love. Yeah.
All right. Now, in order for you to, like I said, in order for you to make an application for this scheme, there is a criteria that has to be followed. I'm not going to go into it because it's really long-winded and it's a lot of things that you've got to read up. But I can give you my story. I was born in Dominica, came here when I was 3 months old. I've lived all my life here, became a mother at a very young age, a mother to 4 children, my first child being born deaf. So I never thought about going on holiday. I never thought about obtaining a passport. My mother did take me away though, I'm not going to lie, but I think I went on her passport back then. So I had been out the country with my mum maybe 3 times as a young child and was able to come back in. But it wasn't until I got like older and mummy passed away in 1998 in Dominica that I found I wasn't able to go over to meet her because they said I wasn't British. Now that surprised me because as far as I was concerned, I was British. I'd never had any problems at all. Never had any problems with giving birth to my children, registering them, never had any problems getting a job, never had any problems getting education. It was just that one time, 1998, when mummy passed away. But I just ignored that because I thought we're bringing mummy back over to bury her anyway. Continued with my normal life. And then I came across trying to apply for a passport for my son and myself, my youngest son, because my other 3 children have got their British passport, but the youngest, they said no. Then I continued working, retired. I think I was 50 when I retired. And while I was in this position doing part-time, that's when I was told I wasn't British and I was asked to leave the job even though I was given the job. And I started facing challenges there. But I just left the job thinking nothing of it. Okay, you're going to sack me. That's your belief. But going to claim benefits, that's when I realized, no, this is wrong. I've just paid into this and now I can't get benefits. And then I became destitute. By the grace of God, I've got blessed children who were there to support me and my family members as well. But emotionally, you can never get that support because you're not believed. And me and my family did go through it because they couldn't believe that I was going through this and they thought I was making it up and I wasn't trying hard enough. And there was arguments. And it wasn't until I had to, survive. I sold old trainers. I did events for people, just and undercut myself just so I could have some money and not have to rely on my children because they had their own family. But it wasn't 2018, I got a call saying that there's people on the telly like you. And lo and behold, I was interviewed. I became truthful. Within 7 days, they said I'm British. And I got my British citizenship. And then it began. The compensation came into place. I think, I'm not saying I was one of the first, but I was one of the first to go public with it because they offered me, after being unemployed for 10 years, not being able to get benefits, just having to survive, they offered me 82,000, I think it was, 2,364, something to that. And that's when I realized there's something wrong with this whole compensation because that doesn't make sense. Even if you added it up, 10 years of being unemployed and getting job seekers allowance or university credit, whatever they called it at the time, it wouldn't have amounted to that. It would have been a lot more, plus the times when I've lost my job. So I challenged them and I've been challenging them ever since. And I haven't stopped challenging them. I am part of any organization that I feel is going to do justice for the people who's been affected. I try to be a forefront person, and I do have disagreements with my colleagues. Trust me, I do, because I am so rebellious in this cause that I've had to train myself in the way I present myself to these people, because I'm angry, and now I'm getting angrier with this new government who are not doing right by our people. It's like we've been forgotten. I've sat around many round tables, many panels, trying to get it over that we did nothing wrong. We were put in this position. You need to do something to justify or to put us back in the position we would have been. Many of us would have still been paying our little debts that we owe, but then having your whole life taken away from you, there's no way. Someone has to be held responsible. I am pushing for an inquiry because I believe we deserve an inquiry. We've got the post office scheme, we've got the blood scheme. There's another one, I think, in Suffolk, what took place. It was with the homes. But many of the Suffolk one is a little bit behind. But what we found out when I sat around a round table with the other schemes is that this Windrush, which I hate calling it that, scandal, is the lowest paid one. There's no justification. We're not even getting any of the same incentive that the other schemes are getting. So we have to keep challenging. I don't know if anyone heard the Chancellor the other day, but it upset me. I was so upset that where they're offering 1.8 billion and 12 billion to another. Anyone, but
mute yourselves, please. Mute yourselves. Mute yourselves. Damn.
When I heard that, I was fuming, because we were only offered in the beginning when Savage Javid was Home Secretary at the time. They only put forward 500 million. 500 million. I know people who's lost homes. I know people who's lost businesses. When I say homes, because our community started off with partner. I'll never forget my mum having to go and take the partner to the little woman. We started off with partner. So it's not that we are unintelligent. We know about business. Many people have put themselves in the position because they know about the future, where they were buying their houses and they were able to live and continue as entrepreneurs. And to know that's being taken away from you in one go, come on, that's trauma enough. And this is what these people have got to understand. You saying that you're going to offer us £10,000 as the lowest payment, which we had to get increased. We had to. I will tell the story. I wish Chris was on here, and another gentleman I met, Carl. But I remember when this first started, I was getting calls and people were saying to me, look, they've offered me some money. Shall I take it? And my first question to them was, I don't want to know exactly how much, but where you offered £7,000, which was the highest payment they were giving out at Impact on Life in the beginning. And they would say to me, yes, how do you know? I said, refuse it, because my story was high profile at that time. And to know that another case that's come along, you know nothing about it, but you've compared it to my one and only offered them 7,000 as the highest on Impact, something was wrong. And we challenged them. Windrush Lives, which is a group of that I'm involved in, and we are strictly victims. A load of us, every one of us, but we came together. We met with the Home Secretary. I think Yvette Cooper was then chair at the time, and we put it to them. We let them know everything what is wrong. We sat with the very first head of the compensation team. I won't call his name, and with him and the permanent secretary at the time. And that was in November. By December, they had increased the impact on life. But that didn't make a difference, because even though they had increased from there, they had taken back from like the other side. So it's still a continuing thing. And this is like 6 years down the line. We're still being treated roughly. Even with the claims that's being put in, they still are not getting enough. They are dismissing that what they've had. Any child that was born here after 1988, they don't even want to class them as British, even though they are British. They're registered at 16, they get a national insurance number. So you've got to count. They're refusing for them to even give it to them. But myself and my colleagues and my great colleague, I call her my right hand because I'm left-handed. June Elizabeth, we do challenge them. Whatever we feel is happening to you, we go back to them and we say, look, ain't gonna work. It's either you do this or you do that. We're finding that, you know, this was all planned because they've taken legal aid away from us for us to even have any form of legal representation. But there is organizations out there who are offering it pro bono, and I'm quite happy to give Courtney all of this, or if he's got all of your emails, so that you know. We have the Windrush Justice Clinic, we have the King's College, we have I think another up north, but there is many legal organizations who are able to help. But I'm going to stop, Courtney, because I can see I could go on forever, but I can see questions in the chat. So if you take over, then I'm quite happy to answer questions.
Right. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna get into question and answer mode, and we got straight to the nitty grits. Before we get to the question, and I would do it with hands up, and what I would like to do is I'm gonna let everyone know that in terms of help, direct help, I'm gonna put in the chat the power of consent, or I could ask my moderators to put the power of consent at gmail.com, and that is the power of consent. I'll just put it in. Okay. At gmail.com. So anyone that's interested in going ahead and making a claim, and you need any kind of stewardship and mentorship, email us so that we can connect you with the good sister here. I do know that on gov.uk, that would you recommend, sister, that people go ahead and just see if they're eligible straight away on the actual Windrush claim on the gov.uk page?
That I would do. And what I want people to understand, that because you faced let's see, discrimination terminology used against you back then, unfortunately that doesn't give you, that doesn't make you eligible to apply for the compensation scheme.
Right.
Maybe there may be something else that's happened in your life, so please read through it.
Even if we're at the venue,
Hold on.
just arrange for an Uber, just for independent sake.
Hold on.
Maybe I didn't make myself clear. Maybe I made it sound like I was still.
Dude, we're not doing that. We're not going to interrupt without putting our hand up and talking. So put your hand up. Yeah, we have to have some decorum in the room. Yeah. So if you've got a question or a point, put your hand up and I'll make you come in. But we're not jumping in and just interrupting. Please don't do that. Don't do that. All right. So put your hand up and we'll make a point. Go ahead, Sister Glenda. Finish up what you're saying and we'll go to the questions. All right. Thank you. Let's have some decorum, everyone. Lord. All right. Go ahead, sis. Sorry. Unmute yourself, beloved.
This is not my ruling. This is their ruling, because every one of us have been through that discrimination, you know, as young people. But this is their ruling in order for them to allow you to even get to this. Trust me, we're fighting to take this off of them so that we can have our own ruling in regards to the way that we were treated. So this is just to let you know. So it's not me to challenge. We want to challenge them for you. So you can take over, Courtney. Sorry.
All right. Okay. Yes. Thank you so much, beloved. We're gonna get straight to the nitty grits and the points. Question, Sister Angela, mute yourself. Go ahead, sis.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hi. You you mentioned earlier or just now about discrimination. In what sense would you say someone's experienced discrimination? Because someone that's a British citizen, born here, British citizen, but they're facing housing situations, would you consider them to be eligible?
Within their criteria, it says they don't class that as part of not being able to get housing. What they're basing it more on is your status and your eligibility as a British citizen. And once they establish that, then anything you face regarding housing or not having access to services then becomes an impact on life. And on the impact on life, that's why I say to people to try and go in on exactly how you felt, so that these people who are assessing these applications have a clear understanding, because on paper they don't understand. I'll tell you, myself and my colleague June Elizabeth did a presentation for them, and we were the first people they'd ever seen as, you know, myself as a victim, which they'd say, oh really, oh my God. When they see it, it's different. When we put it down on paper, it's just a read to them. It's just, that's all it is. It's a read. And to be honest, I've got to say, my reaction was the same thing when I see people on telly saying, "Oh my God, they're saying they're not British." I'm saying, "But how can they say they're not British?" And then I forgot about it. But when you see it in reality, and I think the impact on life's or piece on the application is where you have to really go in and let them know exactly how you felt. If you felt like I felt like poking my eye out because I couldn't get it, go in on that. So maybe that could be included, but they base it on your status as a British citizen. Does that help, Angela?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, because I've looked at the form, and it's got obviously criteria, and one of it did say housing issues or something like that.
Yeah, that's right. You can put that in.
Yeah, so I just thought, okay, because that's my situation at the moment. I feel that I'm being discriminated with regards to I've got disrepair issue basically, and I just feel that if I was like our counterparts, those repairs would have been done a long time ago. So I just feel that there is discrimination in that sense. I don't want to say it's racism, because they're always quick to kind of play the victim if we say we're being racially attacked or whatever. So I would consider that as discrimination,
But is
and
that,
put that to.
are you British? Have you got your, have you had
Yeah,
any? But you see,
yeah. My parents are from the Caribbean, you know, and actually my mum's on the call as well, and my sister, I think. But yeah, so obviously my mum's not had any issues with her British citizen or anything. I mean, I think she got through and stuff, but I think with her situation, it was work discrimination that she encountered.
This is another thing, what we're trying to show them, that we have faced so much discrimination, but there's other organizations who are fighting for people who face discrimination with the repatriation. Unfortunately, this scheme doesn't even take any notice of what we've gone through, because in their mind, oh, it's just normal life to them. We wish we could include it in the scheme, but unfortunately, it's mostly about your status and how you were treated if you were not allowed to be a British citizen.
Right. Okay, let's get to the next question. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
That's right. Huber. That's an unusual name. Come through with the question.
Ewan Herbert. Good morning. Good morning, Glenda. Good morning, everyone on the call. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right, Glenda. I met you last week. Good to see you. And you saw me questioning the Minister for Migration and Citizenship. That day we had, I had made representations for someone who was experiencing some difficulties with their status, unable to obtain British citizenship under the scheme, under the Windrush scheme. And it was really silly that he received a refusal last year, saying that the Home Secretary couldn't waive the residency requirement and that he needed to be here for 5 years before he can obtain citizenship. Now, on that day, while we were at the event last week, I got a letter back from Home Office lawyers, and they withdrew that decision because the New Borders and Nationality Act 2022 had allowed for the Secretary of State to waive that residency requirement, and that came into force a year before they made that decision. It's hard to disseminate whether it's incompetence or deliberate behavior or staff aren't being trained properly. What do you think needs to happen in the way of, because I'm seeing a lot of cases coming across my desk that are this simple to solve, and whenever I make representations and I point out the facts, then I'm getting a different result, a different decision. And I'm worried that this is happening to a lot of people who we don't necessarily know about, aren't coming forward. And as a matter of fact, on Sunday, a case came to me of an 80-year-old woman who came here in the 70s and she got back into the UK eventually on a visit visa in 2016, 2017, but she's now legal in the country at 80 years old, and this scandal is still happening. So what do you think we need to be doing? What needs to happen to drive this into their heads? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, for your question. That's easy. They need to know about us. They need to understand us. And this is what we've been saying from the beginning. We need people who like ourselves in those jobs who understand us because it's affected us. No disrespect to, anybody from any other nationality, but you wouldn't understand what we are going through as people of the CARICOM or the Asians, that you wouldn't understand. And we need people who understand. We've said this too many times to them. You need to go and have a look at the history. I read a report last night, the Windrush scandal report research, and I couldn't believe what I was reading because I was never into politics. I'm being honest. I was a young mom wanting to work, just raise my family. But after reading the way that we had been treated and being told they didn't want people of color in this country, they really didn't. So I think that these people that they're put into to assess these claims and to have a look, they need to go and learn a history before they even take on that job in order for them to decide what we are going through. That's what they need to do. And we say it all the time. I think many moons ago, June Elizabeth said the same thing. How many people that look like me and Glenda are sitting inside your office? And at that time, I didn't think they had any. We see about maybe 4 or 5 when we have the odd engagement meetings. I'm like, do you really understand? And they say, yes, we do. But many of them can't be forthcoming because they don't want to lose their jobs. And I would hate to take the bread out of anybody's mouth. But if I have to, in order for 1,000 more people to, to get the justice, then so be it. But in regards to what you're saying, we need them to, if you're going to put someone in a position, a judge cannot go up and judge somebody without him having the full understanding of their whole case. And this is the same thing with the caseworkers. You need to understand. And it's something we're going to raise because me and June Elizabeth is going to be seeing them in November. And it is something we're going to raise with
them. That's the next point I want to get to real quick before we bring in Sister Flash, who will be next to ask a question, is that between myself and Sister Glenda, we said that Sister here is working within the organization that awards compensation. I'm going to call it trafficking, basically, because, no, sorry, did I get that wrong? Sorry, beloved, go ahead.
No, I don't work with them, please.
Okay.
Don't get that wrong. I don't know. I don't work with them. What we do is challenge them. So we're like a scrutiny board.
Yes,
please.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I stand corrected, beloved. Sister, I don't want anyone saying any propaganda that Courtney said to work with them. Yeah. Sister challenges them. So, Sister, am I right? And before we bring in Sister Flash, do you then consult them in terms like you're on the interface to take our stories and then speak with them? And yes. Are any of our stories here today, which various points were made, you be carrying it over as a case study?
If we have the capacity, myself and June will take it on. If we don't, then we will siphon it off to the other organizations who have the capacity to deal with it. Because as you see us sitting here, I think between each of us at the moment, some of them are getting cleared. I don't know, June might have 15, I might have, 10, but the capacity, and it takes a lot. Because it's not a matter of just sitting there. We want to know who you are as a person before we submit any application. We have to know you. And if we feel that something is wrong here, and you had said about the elderly, that's my main concern, them and the young people. Yes. Because people within my age group, I'm in my early 60s, but I can deal with them. But people young and in the more senior, they find it so difficult.
Yes, sister. So, Sister Flash, come through with your question, Queen.
Yeah, what I was going to say, sorry, going in a bit. It's 6 o'clock in the morning where I am. Okay. Might be for croaky, however. As say British citizen, I was born in the 60s, and we suffered as a result of the Windrush because we faced racism. So it also it caused damage to our confidence.
Yeah.
And how we interacted with people. Also, when it came for applying for particular jobs, because I remember when I was at school and I said I wanted to be a solicitor, they was basically telling me I've got no chance. And so they from the day one, as a black child growing up, he was always put at the bottom of the pile. I remember doing ballet classes, and I was always at the back of the row. So it's impacted us in the sense that I'm just thinking if this would be good for the application, where our confidence has been shattered. We had social skills that we found difficult to interact with people because of the way we were racially profiled, and also when it came to interacting with somebody from a different nationality, i.e. white person, we may have felt intimidated. So there could have been, so that also reduces our prospects for working, because when you're going for a job, you're already intimidated for going in for the interview. You already feel as if you're not going to get it because you're black. So it has a knock-on effect in everything that you do. And when it comes to communicating with the other side, with white people, you always felt as if you were the more inferior one. So again, and then that will stem from you raising your children, because whatever you say to your children, first of all, with our parents, what they believe will come onto us, and then it would then stem down to us and our children. So it is a knock-on effect from our parents right down, because they would give us the beliefs, the limiting beliefs based on what they believe.
Yeah.
And also letting us know what our rights are, because a lot of parents at the time were saying, no, you can't, that's not for you, that's for white people. No, you can't do that, that's not for black people. So already before you even experience anything, you already got that idea that no, that's not for the likes of me. Yeah. So it has had an effect on us. Yeah. And also when we're looking on the forms, it asks you, are you black British, Caribbean British? Are you that British? Why can't we just be British? And then so what do we tell our children? So it has an effect from day dot right through till now.
I agree with you 100%. 100% I agree with you, because my mom used to be the same thing. Oh, just leave it. And I'd be like, no, I'm going to say something. I don't care. Hence the position I'm in now, because I opened my mouth. I wasn't afraid to open my mouth. I don't care. If you're wrong, you're wrong. And it is a knock-on effect. But what I want everyone to understand, in order for you to put in a claim, in their criteria, it had to have affected your status or your the deceased relatives' status. Close family members can only put in application if a primary claimant had been affected. But once you get to that stage and you've passed that eligibility, then on Impact on Life, you can put all of that in there so they have got a clear understanding what you have gone through mentally and physically. That's where it stands. And I'm asking, I want these people to understand, you have not broken us, because we're always going to be, people of strong beliefs, but you've tried to intimidate us and manipulate us, and we're no longer going to stand for that. So try and get that in many ways as you can within the Impact on Life. Can I just bring in Courtney? Can I ask June to just respond, because I feel that she's got a response to that. She's got her hands up.
Yes, thank you, Glenda. I just wanted to reiterate, when Glenda says that we challenge the office, we more than challenge, we do it in a way that we're not attacking, right? We do it in a sensitive way for our clients. And I'll give you an example. Before I send a client to anywhere, I go there myself and check it out. So there's been changes what Glenda and myself has made, because we found that the old CAB that changed to We Are Digital, that has now changed to We Are Grouped, that are based in Coventry, yeah, I deal with the director before I send my clients, because I've sent clients to certain places and they were not trained enough to accommodate the needs of my client. I had to train them, and they're getting paid. They're getting paid. But I just wanted to say that we go deep. We go very, very deep. In fact, we've got an appointment, haven't we, Glenda?
Yeah.
In 2 weeks' time. If they changed it, because Glenda was out of the country, they changed it April, they were out of the country. They asked us in October. And I said, would you ask a minister or a priest to do an event for you on Christmas Eve? He's busy doing his carol service. How can you ask activists like Glenda and myself to do an event in October, Black History Month? Black History is every day for us. Yeah. So they changed it to accommodate Glenda coming back from Dominica. And then I ended up in Jamaica. But when I say we go to the fullness, like I went to the passport office yesterday, my first day in Jamaica, to find out and get a client's passport, and not passport, get a client's birth certificate that he paid for and he should have got from Summer. They said they sent it, and they sent the reference number, the tracking number. When you do it, it's not existing. And when I went there yesterday, they weren't expecting me to come in. I said, you ignored my emails, you know, and that's another story. But I'm just showing you, we go the full depth to make sure our client, in fact, a gentleman who's on this platform, he says we give a Rolls Royce service. So I just want to end there for the moment.
Thank you, Jen. Thank you.
All right, so let's get in Honor RBN. Honor RBN, unmute yourself, please, sir. Or ma'am, sorry, don't want to misgender anyone. Honor, you here? You here, brother? All right, nope, they're just gone. All right, Wumi, Sister Wumi, go ahead, sis. Unmute yourself.
Grand Rising all.
Grand Rising.
Rising.
Yeah, I applied to a Windrush about 2 years ago, but I was born in London, but I was sent back home when I was 3 months old, and I came back when I was 7 years old. So I didn't realize I was born in London. Yeah. So when I came to London, I was abandoned by my mother, and then I was end up in the children's home. So I applied for the Windrush. They refused me first time. So what I done, we wrote a letter, and we said to the Windrush how we're going to take them to court if they refuse me. They wrote me a letter back and says to me, okay, we're going to send this to tier 2. So they sent it to tier 1. And then after about 3-4 months later, they're going to send it to tier 2. And now my case is going into the courts now to see if I'm eligible for me to get compensation for the Windrush.
Sorry, who's helping you?
Gwen. Do you know Mama Gwen? Mama Gwen from Harlesden?
No, sorry, I don't know her. But I don't understand why it even got to tier 1 or even tier 2. Why has it got that far if you were born here? I don't know. I don't want to discuss your business outfit, but could you send, if you're happy to go via Courtney and send us some information, and we'll see what we can do to help you, because that doesn't make any sense. That makes no sense at all, and I'm being honest.
Okay. Yeah. All right then.
I agree. Let me just show the room real quick what Sister just said in terms of tier 1 and tier 2. This is what it is, people. We got to start reading, people. We've got to read. The Windrush compensation scheme includes both tier 1 and tier 2 claims. The scheme's data includes the number of sisters better qualified than I am to say, by the way, the number of claims received, the breakdown of claims by country of residence and nationality, number of people referred to the claimant, assistant provider, value of payments made. I know Sister can elaborate on all of these.
Can I elaborate on it? And I want everyone to know what happens with the tier one. Tier one is when they first send you out, you put in a claim, and then it comes back and you're not happy with this. Now, this doesn't happen with the status. The status is something completely different. When you put in an application for you to get your citizenship as a British citizen, that's a completely different form, completely different. That goes through to the passport office and border agency. Once they have said that, me personally, and this is what I feel, once they've accepted you as a status and they've said, we made a mistake on you not being British, and they give you your status via the Windrush status scheme, you then can put in an application for compensation. Now, what happens then is if it didn't affect your life to the fullness, where you, for years and years, you weren't able to get anything. And we find that some people were just affected a little bit and shouldn't have been in that position where they weren't able to get a passport. What we find that they are doing, they're only offering them £10,000 as an impact on life, because their life was able to go ahead and they would continue, but they couldn't get their status regulated as a British citizen. So those who's put in the application and have been rejected because they've submitted everything. Why? How come I didn't get a job? I won't be able to get housing. If they come back and they say nil award, you then can put in for a tier one review, where a top caseworker has a look at it, goes through it, reads through it. Sometimes it comes back and say, no, the first caseworker made a mistake. Sometimes they say, no, we're in agreement with the first caseworker. Then you're going for a tier two, who then is supposed to go to an independent adjudicator, so they say. And the independent adjudicator then makes a decision whether they agree with the first two caseworkers or not. I always say to people, that's where you need the help. That's where you need the legal help.
Is that when you get rejected? Sorry,
yeah, when you get rejected, that is when you need the legal help, because it is such a tedious process. Because myself and June and others have found they've made major mistakes by not following their own policies.
Right.
And people have to read the policies, because that is how you catch them out. They cannot go back and say, oh, no, this didn't happen. But you can say, but it's in your policy. This is what you said happens.
That's right.
I have to do in order for me to be eligible. So I'm saying to everybody, before you feel that you have been affected, please read the policies, please. I'm open. Send me your email address. I will send you the policies so you can read through it.
I'm going to show it right now, the policies. But just as we are showing the policies, on a RBN, you ready? Are you ready? I did unmute you last one. Ask you something.
Yeah, please.
Yeah. Unmute yourself on the RBN. Unmute yourself, please. You got your hand up and you ain't saying anything, man. Yeah, you there? All right, we're gonna keep it. Okay, we're just gonna keep it move. Okay, Ewan, you got another question.
One is next. One is next.
Sorry. One. My bad.
Me. Sorry, one me.
One. Go ahead. My bad. Go ahead, sir. Unmute yourself.
One me. One of me.
One of me.
One me.
That was Wumi. She just spoke. That was Wumi.
Oh, no,
it was
Wumi just spoke. Yeah. Ewan Herbert. Yeah, sorry if I get your name wrong, pronounced wrong. Apologies.
Yeah, that's all right. Just quickly, because Glenda, I don't deal with the compensation side. You know, I mostly deal with the status side. But I hear you guys mentioning all this tier stuff and bouncing around between the tiers. I wanted to get a better understanding. And are the post office people and the other people who are impacted by scandals having to go through all these rigors, tiers, and bounced back and thrown around and slam dunked like this?
No, they're not. Hence the reason why we're so challenging. I hope that whatever we have on this, people will allow Courtney to submit it to the ministers, because we want them to see that there is many people who's been affected. Right now, there's 73 participants on here, and I'm sure every one of them are not on here because they just want to hear a story. I'm sure they're here because they feel they've been affected in some way. And we want the ministers to understand that. I'm holding a platform on the 29th of November where it's just for victims to talk. I'm not going to talk. I want to hear what you got to say, and I want to record it and send it to them and say, this is how these people have been affected. I want real life stories. I don't want your full story, but tell me how the compensation scheme affected you. What did you have to go through? We're getting this 2-year rule seems to be coming back up, even though they were British citizens, weren't allowed back in the country, but they're using the 2-year rule against them. So there's so much more that has to be said and done. And the minister doesn't understand this scandal. And I'm being honest, I don't believe she does understand it. I mean, meeting with her, it's like, this is all new to her. So when it was in the news back then, they weren't taking any notice of that because it didn't affect them. Now they're in power, they have to. Sorry, that's just me.
Who's the minister? Which minister?
Samina Maholt.
Oh, okay.
Seema Malhotra.
Yeah, she's the immigration and immigrant or something. I'm sorry, I just don't take any notice of their titles because to me they're just people that were put there, but they're not of no help at all.
Right.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask everyone, whoever's got a point in the question, keep it brief, keep it to a minute max as we are moving and approaching towards 11 p.m. I love to do things within a certain time. I know as Black people we can chat enough. Apart from Sister Glenda, sisters, this is your house. You can talk as long as you want. So Sean, who we got? Sean, we got Sister Flash again. We got who we got here? Yeah, Sean, go ahead. Sean, unmute yourself. I don't know which Sean. Is it my brother Sean? Unmute yourself.
Yes, sir.
Oh, yes. My good brother Sean. Go ahead,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Good morning, Sister Glenda. Thank you for your presence here today. I have 2 questions. First one is the compensation scheme specifically for those who were affected in the time where they were classified as no longer British citizens? So, for example, my mom, she meets the criteria, but her mother did allow for her to have her own Jamaican passport, and which that she then used to get a British passport. She became a British citizen. So my first question is she does she meet the criteria for potentially getting compensation from this scheme? And my second question would be, your role to play in this, is it that you've managed to assist people in actually being successful with their claims, but because of the amount that they were offered, you've told them you're pushing for more and more of an amount? Or is it that we're still in stage 0 where people are just trying to get to the space where they can actually get approved of a claim?
We've done both. I helped a gentleman who was from Trinidad, been in this country. He came in the 60s, been here all his life. He had some really good jobs, but he got kicked out of the job. He didn't realize that he could get a British passport. He didn't know. It was like one day he was about to pay for it, and someone said, no, get in contact with this lady. I got him his passport. Within 4 months, he got his passport. We're now in the process of him applying for compensation. Myself and June I think what the applicant, I think they offered him, was it 30 or 20? And we managed to push it right up to 70, was it, June? 70,000 we managed to get. So it's a matter of us going through it and showing, like I said, reading their own policies and their own tariff. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. A lot of people within our age group has been afraid because they went to jail as young people and think that's going to affect them. No, it shouldn't affect you. If you were British and you fell within this criteria or their legible policy, then put in a claim, apply for it. But we do help. With your mum and the, I think the Jamaican, I think June would know more on that. She's more an expert on the status. June, could you answer that for me, please? You unmute yourself, June. Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't hear the question clearly.
So
sorry, the question was, does the compensation only relate to people who wasn't able to obtain a British passport and then as a result were basically shipped out by being told that they were not British citizens even though they have been here for ages? Or is it everybody who met the criteria?
Okay. yes and no. I'll put my hand up to give an example to
Oh, she's gone.
continue. We have a gentleman that was born here. He lives in Lagos. He's given us as a case study. He's a lawyer. And when he applied for his British passport, because he had a Nigerian passport, they gave him the British passport to go and watch rugby in New Zealand because he's a rugby man. But when it was due for renewal, they refused him. They asked him more questions than what they asked him when they gave him the application. But what they didn't realise, the African gentlemen are British gentlemen living in Africa. The Africans didn't realise it's not just for Caribbeans. Yeah, it's for anybody that's been affected. So he was exiled for 2 years nearly, and within 2 months, we got back his passport, even though we were told not even I, as the head of Home Office, June Elizabeth, could get back that man's passport. But me and Glenda got back his passport within 2 months, and the man come back to visit his daughter graduation. Okay, so it's a varied, and every case is individual. Yes, that's when Glenda said at the beginning, you have to look deep into the cases because it's not just straightforward as the paperwork. Somebody put in the chat 44 pages. Well, what we did with Caroline Lawless, the head of policy, about 2 years ago, we told her that the application form, you have to go to university and you still can't answer it. So we help to make it a bit more user-friendly. So there's a lot of changes that we do, Glenda, myself, and other stakeholders, other people involved in Windrush, as a collective team. That makes a difference, but it's still not good enough at the moment. I hope that's answered your question. We go far wide. It's more than just as it seems.
Real quick to that point.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you for that question, brother. It's a great question. And I just showed everybody the actual guidelines that you can read. Just two questions real quick. Anyone else who's got questions, please put your hand up. In terms of the guidelines, this is one of the guidelines here. You said you simplified that 44+ page document. Am I right in saying that? Sister?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, we did. We managed to, for that. It's now 4. Did they say 42? It's 24, isn't it now, June, isn't it?
Wow.
Yeah, I think it's gone down to 24 now, isn't it?
No, that's the status.
Oh, that's the status. All right.
Yeah, the compensation is 44, but they used to ask certain questions like trick question or 3 different time in different ways. Yeah. And we kind of, yeah, it's 44.
Here, this is
one of 48 there.
48. Is this the same one he's talking about, good sister?
No, this is the actual what's that, the rules, I think it is to it. So I suggest everyone don't just go on the thing and look at the form and think that you're going to get awarded. Read through it thoroughly. Read through every guidance that you get. You get caseworkers guidance and you get, I think, the compensation and ruling. Read through that and then it will tell you whether you're eligible or you're not. I've just put up in the chat a flyer of a talk that I'm going to be doing on the 29th of November. It's called Let's Talk, and it's open for the victims to come on there and talk. It will be Zoom. It will be on a Friday. It'll be from 5:30. I'm giving you at least 3 hours so you can get as much in as you can to let us know, because I am going to record it. So if you don't want your picture up like here, just have your name. But I'm going to be recording it because I want the ministers and that to see the people who's been affected and know about them as people. And this is real. This isn't a joke. This isn't a soap opera. This is real. Oh, there it is. So yeah, so it's real. Windrush Lives, that's myself. Obviously my colleague will be on there because she'll be back in the country. And then we can sort of like give you a feedback on how we presented to the caseworkers, because it will be a couple of days after we have been up there. But please apply. you have to apply via email in order for you to be on this platform. But we want to hear your voices. We want to know what's happening with you, because I'm not happy. We're not happy with how we're being treated, where the post office and all the other schemes are being offered 600,000, and the minimum you want to offer is £10,000 to people who have really been affected. They've lost their jobs, they've lost their homes. No disrespect to the people of the post office, I can understand some of them lost their jobs and home, but they're being offered a lot more than us, which is we'll be able to put them back into the lifestyle they were used to. We're not even being given that chance. Right. £10,000, you blow that in Sainsbury's. Sorry.
There you go. Real quick as well, Nick, before we bring in brother again, we're going to close up very soon. We thank you so much, sisters, for sharing your experience and knowledge with us. Real quick, Sister June Elizabeth, sister said that the Windrush compensation is also extended to those brothers and sisters in the motherland. How is that? How does that work exactly if it is Windrush compensation?
Shall I give you a quick example? There are other organisations like Justice for Windrush. They do a platform twice a month, right? In fact, Justice for Windrush, 2 of their members are flown into Jamaica, and myself will be doing something with Glenda and the Home Office next week, Wednesday, from the Jamaica National Library. Yes, and then I'll be going down to St. Thomas and doing something in the schools. So now we've got different people around the world who are similar, but they need certain training to be able to navigate. It's a system to be navigated, because when you give out the information, right, how do they get the help? One thing that has improved, the Home Office has given a number for people to contact them direct when they're abroad, because the 0800 number does not work abroad. So they're giving a number for Jamaica. They're working on other countries, but in the interim, you can send an email and a number and they will ring you. Okay?
Okay. Yeah, I guess I was asking how we tie in our brothers and sisters from the motherland to the compensation of the Windrush scheme. How does that work? If brothers and sisters, for example, who are from South Africa are in South Africa or live here now and they get British citizenship, I know a lot of people have an issue with the word citizen. How do those brothers and sisters get the Windrush compensation scheme? So, like, how are they eligible? Is that on the guidelines as well, that our brothers and sisters from motherland are eligible to?
Yeah, of course. If they're British and they have a right to their British passport, then apply, go on the .gov.uk website, apply via the Windrush status scheme. The status scheme, remember, there's 2 different. So apply via the Windrush status scheme. Once they've taken the responsibility, said, yes, you're a British citizen, then you're open to put in an application for a compensation.
And that quickly goes for us who were born here, who have Jamaican parents, or, for example, West Indian parents. Like, for example, myself, I could go for that compensation.
If it affected the primary claimant, then as a close family member, you may even be a primary claimant. And that's the 2 different. That's why I'm saying to everybody, please read.
Yes, we've got to read up. Sister Flash, come true, my sister. And then the brothers next.
No, what I was asking, because I wasn't in the beginning, because I'm kind of a bit confused about the bit where you said a status. So that Courtney just said now, as being born here, are we automatically considered as having a status?
Yeah, you are, unless they take it away from you and they give you
biometric card. So does that part of the application, is that the standard then for us that we're born here? Or do we have to have something else to make us legible?
Yeah, you are eligible depending on what year you was born. What they were trying to do is anybody born after 1987, they extended it to 88, and you were born to a person who was not classed as British, then you are not British. Hence the same thing what happened to my son, born 1988. My other children were born before that, so they were classed as British. But in 1988, they didn't class him as British. But I had to fight for that because he'd lived all his life in Britain. So you can't say, and they did that because they didn't class me as British. So before you even you are British, my darling. Let's just put it that way. And if they do, because you're getting access to all the services and everything else. If your parent is not, then please get the status regulated. Once the status is regulated, then we apply for the compensation. But one thing I must let everybody know, because you apply for the status and you get through, you get your citizenship free, but you do not get your passport free. Why, I don't know.
Yeah.
But you do
Can I
not get
just
your
join
passport.
you, Glenda? I
Sorry.
have a gentleman who was born 89 after the date.
Yeah.
Yes. And his parents were not born in this country. Yes. And I've just got him his status, but it took a while because his parents got married like maybe about after he was born, say 5 years after he was born, and one of the parents didn't have their status, but we managed to bring him under the Windrush scheme, and he was born here, and he been suffering because he wasn't British. When he applied, they wouldn't give him it, and he was born 89. But we found a way to get him his British status. Yes, so it just depends on the individual.
We really need to read up on what status is, and I think what Sister Flash is saying is also we need to understand the lawful and legal implications and meanings behind status and citizenship.
Exactly.
We always say this in book club that we run here every Sunday and Thursday. We go into etymological root meanings of words, and we have many who go to court, and because they know how to use words, they are able to be victorious in their cases. Black people and white people, everybody listening now, but I'm talking to my community. Start making reading your culture. Come out of reading Twilight and Lord of the Rings. Love Lord of the Rings. Big up the Lord of the Rings queue, by the way. But we've got to start reading about legalese. We've got to get Black's Laws Dictionary. We've got to understand words have deep meaning. I had this conversation with Chakra last night on Instagram about reparations and the terms that we use. You know, we got to, like trafficking. Windrush was trafficking. Yeah, we were brought over to work for a very low wage. Yeah, and that under the Supreme Court case law, you can go and Google it, is against international law. So we need to collectively push for this compensation to be a part, in my opinion, humbly, a part of the transatlantic trafficking of our people. I personally believe it needs to push there. I mean, I don't know what anyone else feels on it. I want to bring in Sister Love, or excuse me, Sister Sheeling real quick, Ewan, because I know you've asked a couple of questions. We'll have to let sisters and queens come first on this occasion. We've got a couple of minutes left. Please, can we keep it all brief? Unmute yourself, Sister Sheeling. Go ahead. Sister Sheeling, unmute yourself. Go ahead, sis.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
I was having a conversation with a young man in the group, and he was saying we're not meant to say we are Black. So that might be one of the reasons why you're not getting anywhere on the form, because one, you're using Black pen, and you're also referring to yourself as not alive. So if we're not alive and we're filling in these papers, they're gonna do like a tennis court thing on us, bounce us from pillar to post. So just like what Courtney said, we have to learn or relearn the language that they're writing to us in. We're not understanding what they're writing on these paperwork, and they're having you on a runaround. That's what I'm seeing. So that's my 2 cents I'm going to put in there. So definition.
What's your suggestion if we're not to use the word Black?
Right. First of all, that paperwork, like 40 odd pages, create your own paperwork. Use blue pen and write in lowercase. Whatever it is that you've been through, this is what I am thinking that will happen, and that will help, because as it stands, I don't think no one's getting anywhere with this. They're giving people not even crumbs when they're getting this money. And if people have been through like trauma, when they get the money, how are they going to spend it? They're going to spend it irresponsibly. They're going to emotionally spend. So, I think there's a more deeper root to this thing where we don't understand what's on the paperwork, and that is to our detriment.
Okay, so but the sisters have already got funding, or excuse me, compensation for families before without doing. I don't know. I can't speak for Sister June and Sister Glenda, but go ahead,
Yeah,
sisters.
you can.
So
Of course. Sorry.
she got apologies. She said that she got like minimum like £7,000 offer.
Oh, that was in the beginning, my darling. That we got that increased. We got that it increased. It started off at 7,000 being the highest you could get. The highest you can get, I think what I've known of, someone's had over 250,000, I think touching nearly 300,000. It depends on your case. It depends on how you were affected. And this is what I'm saying. So we can look at a case and see, we wouldn't know if, you wasn't within a short space of time, this is what you would have accumulated. So we could say, okay, I believe that this person should be put on the level 4, the level 5. We make that decision when we review cases. We make that decision in order to ensure that they are awarded in a fair manner. You know, they may say, oh, but I want 100,000. Well, I'm not working with them. I just want us to be fair.
Right. Somebody needs to mute their mic. Got babies in the background. Mute yourself, please. Thank you. Oh, right. So with regards to what Sister Sheeling was saying in terms of the correction of the status, I know what Sister's saying in terms of talking about the legal fiction, the corporation and all that. In this case, I don't know how much of a difference it would make because I do know people. I don't think it will make a difference, to be honest. I don't think it makes, but I understand where the sister's coming from. Yeah. Ewan, Hubert. Yes, sir. Unmute yourself. Go ahead, brother.
Herbert.
Yes,
Ewan Herbert.
Ewan Herbert. Herbert. Where you from? Jamaica?
No. St. Kitts. St. Kitts and Nevis. St. Kitts
I
and
love
Nevis.
St. Kitts, man. Shout out to St. Kitts, man. Shout out to St. Kitts. Go ahead.
Thank you. Glenda, I support your calls for a public inquiry. I think it's very, very appropriate. There's too many things in the Home Office that's hidden over the decades. There's a lot of policies that have been set, a lot of decisions that were made for specific people, but weren't made for others in the same circumstance. I'm going to come back to that in a second. I think, and you may have heard me say to the minister last week, that we need to have an apology and a statement made at ministerial level regarding the report that was buried by the Home Office. It was commissioned by the Home Office and then buried because they didn't like what the report said. That report is very, very appropriate, and it needs a public statement from ministers and an apology following it, including why it was suppressed. And there's a lot of things going on with civil servants with regards to that. Lastly, with regards to status, right? Status is a broader sort of encompassing thing. So you have different statuses, the British citizenship, ILR, ILE, settlement, etc. I won't go into all of them, but the point I wanted to make on that was there was a case I dealt with back in 2018. It's my mom's cousin who came here in the 60s from St. Kitts and Nevis. And they were and are British citizens all the way through if they lived here in the UK for 5 years or more before 83. Now, what happened was in September 2018, the lawyers he was dealing with in Leeds at the Citizens Advice Bureau somehow made an application under the Windrush scheme and they naturalized him. So I wrote back to them and I said, you can't naturalize this man. He's already British. You know the story. And they wrote back and they said, thank you for pointing that out. Please send back the certificate. Here is a letter confirming that you are British and you've always been British, and it's sufficient to apply for a passport. Now, I believe that this is happening to other people. But again, if information is not being shared, people are not speaking up, people aren't getting the right status. And some may think that just because they got something, it's okay. But if you led this man to believe that he was not British for 40 years, going back to 83 and going back to the 60s when he was born, then it affects his compensation differently. Because if you detain a British citizen, it is or deport a British citizen, which you actually cannot do. It's against the Holy Grail. it has a different impact. So again, it is important that people are getting the correct status and people are sharing, like Glenda, you've said, you know, the kind of money that was received for certain compensation. That's important for people to know, you know? So if people aren't sharing their experiences in terms of status, they could be walking around with the wrong status, and I've seen this, or other things. So I just wanted to make that clear and hopefully have a broader conversation on that.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Status part though, when we're talking about status, I want us to be clear. What are we talking about? What are we talking about with status? What are we saying?
We're talking about the status that they have, whether it's indefinite leave to remain, right of abode,
right,
British citizenship, or just simply indefinite leave to enter, or limited leave. So whatever status you're given by the Home, what is your status in the UK?
Oh, you gone there. Yeah. Let me yourself, bro. Sorry.
Yeah, so I was just saying, the question, or to answer the question, is what is your status in the UK and is it correct? That's the point I'm making, because they make mistakes all the time and they do what they want.
And what is a correct status, real quick?
So the correct status means that you have to be assessed properly to see if you've been given the correct status. So people born in the UK before 1983, for instance, all persons born in the UK before 83 are British citizens, unless
breaking up, brother. You're breaking up. Okay, could be my internet.
Unless a few things apply, like your father was
you sounded like
diplomat.
Robocop. Sorry, you sounded like Robocop.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you now. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I can hear you. We can hear you.
Okay, that's not internet. My internet is going janky, so we're gonna.
If you're in the UK before 83.
Okay.
If you were born in the UK before 83, or people born in the UK before the 1st of January. Can everybody else hear me? Or?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
It's Courtney's end.
It's my end.
I was saying briefly.
Sorry.
Everyone in 83, British, unless the father was a dick or an enemy alien. Long story. It was during the wartime. So if there's different circumstances, parents who are married, 83, etc. What I'm saying is people need to compare.
I can hear Glenda.
Okay.
Giving you an example on the and yeah, we can he's going. But in order for status in what the compensation, the Windrush status scheme is for you to get